Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night whenever you're seeing this video. The subject of this video is the journey of faith and what it'll get you if you stay on that path. The trials and tribulations that you have to go through when you're following our Father, the belittlement, the slander, and all the things that come with it to follow Jesus to get to the next level. In this video, I'm going to share with you my personal testimony. This has been a video in the making for a long time. I kept hesitating to make it because I didn't want to offend anybody. I've spoke with people of my past and they say sometimes I come off as bragging. But I truly believe when God works miracles in our lives, it's not an act of bragging. It's an act of sharing our story with others that may be going through the same thing. That's the whole purpose of my YouTube channel. That's the whole purpose of what I do as far as my marketing business. It's basically my life. So y'all stay tuned. I'm going to go through what I've gone through, and I pray that it encourages you. Please subscribe to the channel for more epic content. Hashtag JRideReviews, car reviews, and more on YouTube or whatever platform that you happen to find this video. This is raw and uncut. And before I even start, I'm going to say anybody of my past that may see this, it's not to slander your name or say this or that about you. I'm just speaking the truth, and the truth will set you free. So let's dive in. A little bit about me. Where did hashtag JRideReviews come from? Well, back in 2019, I'll give you a little timeline. 2019, I was working one of my day jobs. I used to drive trucks, used to make good money, had a nice home, and just pay attention to all this because all this kind of all intermingles together. So I was at my day job and I had just gotten into YouTube as far as watching it, daily. And there was a YouTuber, very famous YouTuber, tall guy car reviews and Mr. Organic. They used to do collaborations where they test drove vehicles for dealerships. And I thought about a crazy idea. My first car that I owned was a Lincoln Town Car when I started the channel, a 2000 Lincoln Town Car Signature Limited. Very nice car. That was my first video. And I look back at it now and it was all shaky and all messed up as far as how I recorded it, but I was self-taught. I just started out with my phone, a tripod, and a little bit of faith at that time. I recorded the video. It did very well. One of my subscribers on my channel wind up finding my actual vehicle, reached out to me after I traded it in. Years later, he found it at an auction and bought it and reached out to me. And I was like, what's the odds of somebody seeing my video first, then actually finding the actual car after I never thought I would see that car again. And so it was my actual car. So what I'm getting at here, God is strategic on what he does and what he uses us for in this lifetime. And like I said, cars are near and dear to my heart. And they were a connection that I really had with my deceased father. We loved cars together. We test drove cars. We did all that growing up. And so worked on cars, and shout out to my dad. Rest in peace, Pops. This video's for you as well. So anyway, fast forward a couple of years later, I kept switching jobs. And when you know that God has something for you, you'll never be comfortable with doing what's outside of your purpose, your passion. So whenever I would switch jobs for $1 here, $1 there, 50 cents here, 50 cents there, it was unfulfilling. So I knew I had something in me, but I didn't know what I had in me, if that makes sense. So during this journey, Met a young lady, unsuspecting, at a party of some friends that I wasn't even invited to the party. And she, of course, is on her faith walk, and she encouraged me to get more on my faith walk. I always will remember that and always praise her for that. But that also came at a cost too, and I'll get into that later on in the video. But stick to your course. Sometimes you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So God will strategically remove things and people from your life, and you won't know what's going on. So in 2022 was a year of transformation. I left my last job at a car dealership here in the area. And actually, the car dealership that I had before my last car dealership, a young man, Mr. Jalbert, we were talking, and I was doing car reviews for that dealership for free until they actually hired me for something other than the marketing stuff. But I took the job because I love cars so much. And he is a contractor for the dealership, and he was like, "Hey, you need to start a business doing your marketing. You can make money off of it." And I was like, I wasn't thinking about it. I was still had my house, still had my checks coming in, still had income coming in. So I was like, nah, I'm good. So fast forward to 2022, got in an argument with the manager, my manager in the service department at the Toyota dealership, because I was helping a young lady, which is one of our customers at the body shop. Her husband died. She didn't have a car. I took her home when the accident, I guess, had just happened. I took her home in the van, and then we became friends. We talked, and she told me her story and her faith. And so one day, I'll never forget this. This is what the change started. My change when I was working at that dealership. One day, she called me on my phone, my personal phone, was like, "Can you pick me up from my job?" They actually totaled my car out at the dealership, at the body shop, and she needed a ride back to the dealership from her work. And so I said, of course. I was getting ready to take lunch. It was a little bit later in the day, but I was like, "Nah, let me take care of these customers, because this is what this job is about, taking care of the customers, getting them back to the dealership." I was driving the shuttle van at that time, and so I picked her up. And I said, you know what? Something in my heart said, I got to help this lady with this whole process. I helped her take her tag off her car. She was getting in the van. She cried about losing her husband. He had passed away, losing the car, and loss is hurt. And I'll get into that later on in the video. But so she was telling me all about that. And we prayed. We actually prayed at a red light together. And I told her I'm going to make sure she gets home. She don't have to worry about getting a ride or asking for a ride. I got her. So I went and helped her take all her stuff out the crashed car and put it in the van, got her home. Didn't think nothing of it. The phone wasn't ringing for me to pick up other customers or whatever at that time. And next thing I know, when I got back, the service manager was like just going off on me about helping this lady, and I didn't pick up the phone, and we went back and forth, and he was putting his hands in my face. He was a big dude too. He putting his hands all in my face in the office, and the offices that dealership was like a cubicle, but it was all glass, so everybody saw the interaction. And he's very tall, 6'6", 6'7", and I'm 6'1", and he was just all up in my face. And I said, you know what? I heard something. I said, I'm done. I'm good. He's like, you ain't got nowhere. You ain't got this, and that's one thing about me. Whenever somebody challenges what I can't do, I'm going to get into God mode, and I want to show you what I can do through Jesus Christ. So anyway, he went off on me, and I said I quit. I gave him the keys. I gave him the phone. He actually followed me out to my car and was still behind me, running off at the mouth. But I let God handle that. So anyway, I left. Didn't have nothing. Didn't have nowhere to go. I didn't have nothing else lined up. And I decided I wanted to go ahead and start my business. So I prayed over it, talked to my parents. My dad was alive at the time. He was all for it. Mom was, being mom for her only boy, the the youngest of my siblings, me and my twin, but the only boy. So she said what she had to say, and this was the start of the faith walk. I walked away. I remember it was my first customer with my business that I even tried to get uh, was a company, a restaurant here. I knew the owners. The owner's wife was actually um, worked at when I worked at FedEx. She actually worked there, so I knew of them. And I remember the husband wanted me to do the monthly stuff for them, post a couple times a week, go to their 2 locations, take pictures and videos. And I'm sitting up here like, whoa, this is it. And then, bam, we got to the price. He gave me the passwords to his social medias before we even talked about the price. I didn't know, so he offered me $100 a month for the full social media. I'll never forget that. Yeah, $100 a month. And so I politely knew my worth, and I politely disregarded the offer. And I already had filled out for my license and the EIN. I just had to go in. It was in process. So when I left there, I cried. I remember I cried in the parking lot. I was like, wow, I left the familiar for $100 a month. And I can't survive. I still got an apartment at the time, and I said, wow, this is crazy. This is a personal testimony video, by the way. I pray that this inspires somebody. That's the whole purpose of this, is to inspire you through my story. And I pray, write down in the comments if this sounds familiar to what you've been dealing with in your life, relationships, losses, all these different things. And I'm going to tell you how God can replace where I am right at this moment when I'm recording this video, and exceed what your little expectations are if you have faith. And you can be, with God, you can be mighty specific. And it might not happen today, tomorrow, the next week, but if you have faith and patience, F and P, they go hand in hand with faith, with God. Faith, patience. You see what my hands are? In the P position, prayer position. That's what it's all about. So anyway, then I left there, went to the state building, because I'm in Northern Florida, and Northern Florida is the capital of the state. So I went down there. The guy was like, oh, we can print out your business license today. I said, awesome. So I did it. I'm happy. Shared that with my young lady I was dating at the time, and we celebrated. It was a cool achievement, right? So I was like, okay, here we go. Now, mind you, still bills coming in and things kind of sketchy. So I went to one of my HVAC customers that I actually used to, my companies that I worked for previously, driving trucks. I delivered to them, I sold to them, and we came up with a plan. And she said, she was like, yeah, we need help with social media. Boom, got it. Gave me a good price. I'm not going to go into that price, but she's still a customer to this day, almost 3 years later. My first real customer, and still my customer. But then I had some trials and tribulation with that customer too. But God is just so strategic with what he does. He just strengthens you while you're going through. He strengthens you while you're going through. Trust me, because it's going to get better. Okay? So got her on board. She actually gave me a raise a couple months in, because I was putting out posts, going out to the job sites, taking pictures, doing videos. Boom, 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 boom. Everything seemed like it was coming together. I was able to pay my bills, whatever. I had other gigs coming up on the side, and things just were what they were. Here I am. Okay? So fast forward to 22. My parents helped me out. Dad was alive. He invested. My mom wanted to invest. She was helping me out. So I was struggling sometimes, because you're going to struggle. When you start a new business, let me give you this right now. Listen to me really good. You're going to struggle. You're going to lose a lot. But if you have faith and patience, and put those together and pray in this position, whether you're on your bed, at your job, whatever. I pray so much now, I say, man, God gets tired of me praying. But that actually is building a relationship with him. Don't ever feel like you're praying too much. Okay? Praying equals staying with Jesus Christ. All right? So here's now my faith journey, my spiritual journey. God was always with me, but I wasn't always with him. My father was a minister, and we grew up in the church. But after 18, once I got out there in Orlando having fun, church, I would go to church every now and then, but I wasn't there. Okay? It was in here, but it wasn't out here. So that's the purpose of this channel, the channel, what I do, why I inspire people, why I'm even telling y'all my story. Because you don't necessarily have to be a minister or a pastor in a church to share God's love. You can share it anytime, anywhere you go, anytime you go, wherever. So I want to be out on the street beat. And what is a street beat? My dad was a cop. Earlier on, when he first started, he used to call it the street beat. The street beat is when you're out amongst the people. He didn't have a police car. He walked up and down the streets up in New Jersey back in the day. And it's called a street beat. You have to do that a couple of years before you get a squad car or you get elevated to detective and all that stuff. Okay? So I knew I always wanted to be on the street beat. I always felt like I could reach more people through social media, through my travels, being out and about. I can reach more people than I could in a congregation. Congregation comes with more, a lot of things. And y'all know, if you're in the church, you know, he said, she said, da da da. He ain't doing enough. This person ain't doing enough. This one ain't faithful enough. This one wearing the same too crazy of clothes to church. This one talking about this one. This one's hanging out with this one after work. I don't want none of that. But if I can inspire you through this, where you're seeing me at right now, and my daily walk out here in the streets, that's what life is all about. Okay? So anyway, 2022. All right, things were going great. Relationship was good. Still had my house. I struggled. I was behind on rent from time to time. Bills stacking up, because when you go from familiar to this unfamiliar journey, when you're following Christ, it's not easy. You're going to lose a lot. You're going to lose a lot. I did. I lost a lot. And that's what the whole purpose of this video. But God has restored me in December of 2024. Okay, so we're in 2022. I'm telling you what happened. So anyway, 2022, April, May, I started the business. I'm grinding, taking jobs here and there, doing what I'm needing to do. You're gonna get celebrated by certain people. My girlfriend, oh, every time a big comment, oh yeah. We went out to dinner. Every time there was an accomplishment, right? And no belittlement, nothing negative to say about her or nothing. I'm just saying this how life is, how God is so strategic on his moves. So, you know, in our relationship, because she's very much into her church and everything like that, there was always that void, like, you don't want to go to church with me, you're not doing things with me, you're not spiritually aligned, and yeah, that's what I require for my future husband. And we got into all of that at certain points, and all the way up until all the way up until, you know. So I was on that front. I guess I wasn't always in alignment with her, her spirituality and mine. But God's timing is not our timing. It's not her timing, your timing. Anybody outside of your physical being. See, this is God's. This is all God's. And this house, my new house, and I'll tell you about that later on in the video, is God's house. I'm just able to stay here for a little while. It's not the owner of the house. I'm renting. It's not the owner's house. It's God's house. And I'm passing through. God bless me with it, okay? So give props to God for every accomplishment, every failure, everything, because he's the reason for the season. Just trust and believe that, all right? So around September, my father fell at the house, and they were living in Atlanta at the time, broke his collarbone. So the collarbone was kind of stick protruding through. And, you know, my mind is just a fall. He's going to get surgery, you know, or a cast, and he's coming back home. Well, folks, this is where things really began to change. So he was in the hospital. He had the surgery. It was a same day surgery, and I made it up from Tallahassee. Uh, the day before, I missed the pre-op, but I made it. While we had to take him to another clinic up there in Atlanta, um, to have some blood work done and all that to make sure everything was good for the surgery the next day. So he had the surgery, and I was like, man. And they told us how long it was going to be, and I noticed it took a lot longer than what they had told us, and there was really no real communication between the doctor and us. But they did come out eventually and say everything was well. They waiting for his O2 to get back up, and we'll be able to get him on home. So yeah, I remember lifted him up. He was real weak. Put him in my mom and dad's vehicle and drove him home. And he had a good night. He rested. I checked on him. I remember that several times a night just to make sure he was okay. Make sure his breathing was normal as far as what I could tell. And the next day, September 15th or 16th, I just noticed when we woke him up, he was real lethargic. He kind of fell back into bed. We took a shower. He was real weak. We had to help him get into the shower. And I was like, huh. So my mom and sister went to the store to get some things, and me and him were in the living room. He wasn't talking much, and I said maybe he's hurting from the surgery or whatever. But I noticed he just wasn't himself. So I grabbed I had bought him an oximeter, the little thing you put on your finger, and I got him one, and I had one that I brought up because I always check my oxygen when I'm working out or whatever I'm doing. I always like to check my oxygen level, make sure it's up. This is something I do. Health as well, especially in your 40s. I was 38 at the time though, but anyway, I checked his and it was like 69. I was like, wow, that's low. So I'm thinking it's just a bad reading. So I grabbed mine out of my bag and put it back on his finger. It was 69 again, and that's extremely low for oxygen. 96 and above, 95 and above is normal O2 saturation. So I just remember checking them out, and I was like, okay. So my mind was like, I'm gonna call 911 because that's too low. I have 2 oximeters, so they came in and they checked it. They were like, yeah, we gotta take him back to the emergency. We gotta take him to the emergency room because his oxygen is too low. And so they put the oxygen on him, and I remember my sister and mom coming back. My sister and I got in an argument because she was trying to get in the driveway, but the ambulance was in the driveway. So that's all bygones. So I just remember that. And he went into the hospital in September, stayed there for a while. He got sick. They messed him up a couple times with taking his blood sugar from the wrong IV line, and the young lady, I guess, thought that my dad had diabetes because she actually took his blood sugar from the IV line that he wasn't eating much, so they were giving him what they call dextrose, which is sugar, and her reading came up high because obviously she was on the line that the sugar was going into my dad's vein, and they gave him insulin, and he went into insulin shock, diabetic shock, and he was just that was that turning point in his life. It was a turning point in mine. So they transported him. Oops, hold on. Sorry. They eventually transported him to the VA in Atlanta, and I think by that time he was already that sugar. Sugar is a deadly thing, especially when you don't. Insulin is a deadly thing when you don't need it. So they transferred him to the VA, and I thank God. I thank God every day that I was a freelancer, a business owner, if you want to say, because I was able to go to Atlanta to visit, every week, every other week, and I didn't have to. That was another thing. I knew that I was tired of the rat race of a 9 to 5, where I gotta explain to people I need a time off, the 9 to 5 thing, and do I have vacation time? Do I have PTO? Can I get off in general? I remember those days where I couldn't get up and go when I needed to. And yeah, so he lasted another month or so. October 31st, he had he coded, and I knew my dad did like Halloween, so he hung on in there. They put a ventilator in him and I came up, and I remember November 1st, I went to the hospital, and he was there. It was just a shell of a man that I once knew, you know? He was just there, and his breaths were mechanical based off of the machine, and they told me, they said, yeah, he won't last long like this. And I said, okay. And this is where my life, 2022, my life changed forever. And I don't think, even though my ex old lady now, I don't even think she understood. She was there, she supported, but she don't understand. She has her parents, they're still alive. And I tell you, your life changes forever when you're I've never been the same since. So we left the hospital, and I just remember saying, man, something else. So my mom's phone rang on the way back to the house in Atlanta when they were living there, and she put it on speaker, and we had got so used to phone calls coming from that hospital that it was just gonna be something. It wasn't gonna be something positive. This was gonna be either something happened or somebody did something to my father. So she was just tired of the phone calls, and I remember we got the phone call, and they asked if the resuscitation orders were still. We still wanted to. They didn't say anything had happened. They just said, "Are they still valid?" And I remember hearing that, and I was like, "Oh boy!" So we drove a little bit further, and then my phone rang. And this is another thing that the young lady that was in my life, and a lot of people don't know. When you get that phone call, the dreaded phone call. So they called me, and I'm driving. They were asking my confirmation information, who I was, and was I my dad's son, and we had the same name, and I had to confirm this and confirm that. And I remember the guy saying, "It's unfortunate, Mr. Cunningham, but your father has passed away." Anybody knows me how much my father meant to me. I was the only boy out of 6 girls. And so here's where God came in. I lost one of my first loss, but before even all that, when I started the business, I had friends, homeboys that I used to turn up at the apartment with. Circumstances happened, and I lost them first, and I lost my dad. And then I struggled for a long time. I struggled for a very long time. I still struggle. It's been 2 years. And the world don't have compassion. People don't have compassion. It's just the way it is. It's just another person that has passed on. And this is where my spiritual journey just did a 360. There's nothing else that I need in this world other than God. I lost my physical father, but I also regained my heavenly father. And that's the best thing that ever happened to me. It didn't happen on my ex-girlfriend's timing or what the world says timing. It was God's divine timing. Just believe this. God doesn't clock in and clock out like our jobs. God doesn't live off of this calendar that we live. He's everlasting. He's forever. There's one thing we know. Our Father in heaven is forever. So I just been empty ever since, you know? And the only thing that filled the void was my Heavenly Father coming back home. You're going to have to come back home. When you lose it all, you're going to have to come back home. you're going to have to stick with him like he always stuck with us. Okay? So, friends first. Father second. Fast forward, I got back home from the funeral and everything. I had to drive my mom and myself from Atlanta to New Jersey. We buried my dad in New Jersey at the family plot. My great grandmother's down at the bottom. In Jersey, they don't bury necessarily out, they bury down. So my great grandmother was at the bottom of the tomb, if you want to say, buried at the ground. Then my grandmother, my dad's mom, and then my dad was on top. And so we got that all done. I started saying, God, you got me on a mission. I hadn't drove from Florida or Georgia to New Jersey before in my life, but the trip was effortless and I never got tired. I drove 10 hours straight. So God also prepares you without knowing that you're being prepared for something. All those years I drove trucks before I started this business as a delivery driver, prepared me for the ride that I would have to make, the drive to New Jersey. I could have probably went all the way through. We made it from Atlanta to the suburbs of Richmond, Virginia. So I drove 10 hours straight, no problem, other than little stops here and there. But God always strategically prepares you. He will prepare you for whatever you have to deal with in life. You just have to remember and have your eyes open, your spiritual eyes. Your physical eyes are very important too. I remember my dad used to tell me, because I struggled in the beginning with the business and with my girlfriend and other people in my life about the vision. Here's something, write this down, that my dad would say. He asked me one day, he said, how many eyes were you born with? I said, what do you mean? How many eyes were you born with? I said, 2. He said, okay, those eyes are specific to you, right? How do you expect anybody else to see your vision when God only gave you your 2 eyes? Think about that. Put you on game. Your vision, not everybody's going to see your vision because it's not their vision to see. They're living their life. They're doing what they're doing. Spiritually, emotionally, or if they're just living. How do you expect everybody else to see your vision when God gave you your specific eyes, your specific vision? It's not going to happen. So anyway, got that all situated. Got back home November 16th of 2022. And fast forward, I was struggling and business was slow and couldn't go on the dates and out of town trips like I wanted to with my mate at the time, and things were just a struggle. And she paid for some of the trips. I give her props, but it was just rough times because I've always been a man. You know, I always had that man pride, like I got this, I can handle this. And so things in between them, I got rebaptized. Actually, I was a new member of a church here in Tallahassee, and she was going to her church, and so we had a conversation one day about, I felt like I was baptized by my father as a child, but I was kind of like, I know I've sinned as an adult, and I want to come back home, because in that process, when I got back home from New Jersey, I wanted to commit suicide. I had my pistol one time on the side of my bed. I grabbed it and I started crying. I said, Dad, I want to be where you are. And God came into that room and my hand went back. I put the gun on the ground, and I remember that. And what I heard and what I was told, you might think I'm crazy or whatever, but basically what I heard in my head and in my mind and my spirit was, if you take yourself out, you're not going to go where your Father is. It's not our job to take ourselves out. It's God's timing. It's not our timing. Suicide and nothing. I don't get into all of that, but I was just saying, I just remember having it here. I had it right here, my 9mm, loaded, one in the chamber, and I held it, and I cried. I said, I want to go where my dad is. I want to go where my dad is. And I just remember my hand shaking, and I put it back on the floor. I was by myself. And one thing about this journey, no matter how many people you're around on this journey, folks, you're always going to feel alone when you're following your path, your vision. No matter how many people are around. No matter how many people celebrate you, slander your name. Luke, for reference, Luke chapter 6, verses 22 and 23. Write that down in the comments. Luke chapter 6, verses 22. It explains what I'm talking about, how you be persecuted, how you be belittled, enemies, and what you need to do when you're going through your trials and tribulations. Luke 6, chapter 6, verses 22, 23. Read that. Let me know what you think. If that sounds like what you may be going through in your life, continue to watch this video. And I hope you've watched it this far, because I'm sharing today. Sharing is caring. I have to share my story. A young lady from my past, we were talking, and not too long ago, and she says, yeah, it does come off. I share my story with a lot of people, with my new doors that have opened up, with people at my where my doors have opened up, with everybody. I tell people my story because it's something else where God brought me from to where I am right at this moment. And I thank him. I thank him every day, because the world told me, people told me, she told me, they told me that I lost it. The journey's lonely, y'all. The journey's really lonely. But the only way to go is up. And I thank God daily. Luke chapter 6, 22, verses 22 to 23. Read that. It'll let you know about what happens when you're slandered, belittled, talked about, and all those different things. But stick with God. He never left you. We always leave him. All right. So a year later, my landlord of 8 years, where I was living at, one of my comfort place, excuse me, came by one day. They had been talking about selling my place for a while. They had mentioned it to me, but one day he said me and his wife are coming by. Him and his wife are coming by, and I remember that. And I remember for the 8 years that I lived there, the wife never came by. They were dressed up. When he would come by, he'd be in, regular clothes, because he was coming by to do something, cut the grass or fix something. So today, all dressed up. He's all dressed up, and I was like, huh. And they came up, they knocked, and they, let me know, we got a realtor coming. You're good, because my lease wasn't up until January, but this was in November-ish, and so I was like, okay. The realtor came by. The landlord, my landlord at the time, was kind of like, we want him to stay. Obviously my rent was cheaper. My rent was very cheap. That was another reason why I stayed where I was at all those years. But the realtor was like, yeah, that ain't happening. The market value is way higher than that if he winds up staying here. So anyway, I knew something was up, and he was like, yeah, we're not gonna sell it just yet. So the realtor, they made me go outside. I was home. I was working from home. I went outside. They closed the door, came back in. She basically was like, the realtor was like, let me know, basically, if they want to keep me in there, that might limit their marketability of the place. Somebody might want to buy it for their student, because I was kind of in college town off Ocala. Anybody knows that area? It's kind of college town-ish, Florida State-ish. And so, go Knowles. This is my dad's sweater, by the way. Mom gave me a lot of his stuff when he passed away. I wear this a lot because I love it, and I love him, and he'll always be in my heart. And anyway, college town, blah, blah, blah. Well, he was like, well, we're going to go ahead and put it on the market. And mind you, I still got into January on the lease. I was a little behind because I was struggling with the business. When I tell you, you're going to really have a hard time when you step out on faith. And you're going to have patience. You got to have it. It is faith and patience go hand in hand. That's just the way it is. I'm telling you. All right. So anyway, I'm sitting up here and I'm like, all right, here we go. They were like, well, we'll, you can, if you're home working from home, we'll leave the lockbox here. And they were giving me instructions to help them sell it. I remember that. We'll leave the lockbox when we'll call you. The realtors in the area, whenever they come to show it, they'll call you to let you know you got to leave for however long they need to show the place. And here's the key in the key box. You can leave the key box outside when you leave, and when you get back, put it back in the house. And I'm like, no, no, no. And then they were like, you don't ever know. Really, it might be random where the realtor wants to come in. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, nah, I don't even want to be bothered with that. So then he had the contractor. The lady, I heard the realtor say that they needed to upgrade. They needed to paint and upgrade. And over the 8 years that I was there, they really didn't do anything because a lot of stuff I fixed. I like fixing stuff, and he would take a little bit off the rent or something. But anyway, they were like, we got to upgrade, we got to paint it. So they got with the painter, the contractor, and he basically, I remember one day he came to me November 15th and was like, when do you think you can be out? Because we got to get the place fixed up before you move out. Okay? Huh. You see that weird looking shadow right over my shoulder? I look over there, I can't see it. To God be the glory. If you're in the place, Lord, I'm doing this for you and for my family and for my father on behalf of them. And you keep leading me with the word, what you want me to say. Just something's over my shoulder. I see some weird lighting right there. Anyway, yeah. So I told him I would be out on November 19th by that weekend. So I had to go. Here's where things got a little touchy. So my mom's moved from Atlanta to New Jersey. After my dad passed, she didn't want to stay in that house, and she wanted to be in Jersey, more near to where his final resting area is. So I respect that. Love my mom. Shout out to my family. Shout out to my twin sister. Shout out to my brother-in-law, the kids, all my family, wherever you are. I love y'all. And my YouTube family and my social media family and my car dealership family. I love each and every one of y'all. Keep love in your heart. Keep God in your heart, and everything will work out because it's about to get good now. Well, 42 minutes in. Okay, I'm gonna try to wrap this up. So, anyway, my girlfriend at the time, we agreed. We weren't married, but now I was getting more on this spiritual journey, and I was kind of like, God, where do I go? She opened up her door for me. We had been dating for a couple of years, and she got some resentment from people close to her about me moving in, and I was kind of like, but I had put so much effort and time into this business in Tallahassee, and it was growing and it was going, and I didn't want to leave. I could have moved to South Carolina with my twin and my brother-in-law, but I would have had to give up the dream. And I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me the road would be easy, but I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me. That's real. Find motivation wherever you go, whatever you do. So anyway, fast forward. I got a storage unit. My buddy, a good friend here in Tallahassee, helped me move out. I got a truck from my former employer at FedEx Ground. He let me borrow one of his trucks to move. Boom, boom, boom. We move in. Automatically, here where things kind of got. One of her church friends was like, don't move him in with you. Her mom and dad were kind of iffy about it. A lot of people were iffy about it. I'm still struggling financially. I'll admit that. I was still struggling to grasp. I was doing work, had a big dealership. Shout out to them. You know who you are. That I was doing work, but it was real intermittent, sketchy. I had another dealership down south of here that I was working a couple of days a week. Income was coming in, but I knew I had two things that I had to save for. Because it was getting sketchy now with the relationship. Like, she really was like, we gotta be more committed to this. I need a ring. You got until what was it, October 15th. She said, if you don't do it by October 15th, which would have been our 4th year, then I got to go. The relationship's over. That started getting touchy. And I kept telling her, give me a little bit, because this business, I want to get this going for our at that time, ourselves and our future family. You gotta, when you step out on faith, you gotta, it's a really act of faith. I stepped out. A lot of people, I tried. When I was living there and I didn't have anything lined up, I'd apply for jobs. I called dealerships every week. I'm doing all the work I can to try to make this work, because I really believed in what I was doing and what God had brought me through and for. And here I am today. Thank God for it. So anyway, it was a tough time. It put a lot of strain on our relationship. My finances, she loved to travel, and there was ultimatums. If I don't go here, I gotta go. And it was just too much. Missing my father, missing my mom, being far away, the business. I thought I was gonna have a mental breakdown. I thought I wasn't gonna make it. And then I developed a heart skip at that time, and I never really had that before. It felt like my heart would beat, boom, 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 stress, and then it would stop. And so one day I went to the hospital, and they checked me. They rushed me in the back. They thought something was really wrong with me. They checked me. Everything came back normal. So I sent that information to my former doctor in Perry. When I worked at FedEx, I built a good rapport with all the people out there. He would give me recommendations and everything. Shout out Randy Hearn in Perry, doctor out there. I sent him to work, and he asked me, he said, are you under a lot of stress? And I was like, yeah. Trying to make the business work, living with my girl, finance is funny, these places ain't really confirming. I'm making money, but not what I need, right? So here's where it got crazy. Ultimatums came up, arguments, all these things. I remember my dad always told me, never move in with a woman. He always said that. He said, y'all move into something together if you're going to do that. But I was at a breaking point where, do I leave JRideReviews or my freelancing business, or do I hang in there and let God work and have the faith that I always say that I profess that I had? So I stuck with the faith journey. Okay, I get ready to go to work in a little bit. I'm recording this before I go to work today, so it was just on my heart when I got up today. I gotta do it today. So I'm hanging in there. Things were getting testy, and I wasn't stepping up to the game to engage her, but that was the second thing that I was working on too, getting a ring and everything. And I had a time that I wanted to do all that, but it was actually after the time that she had gave me. So like I said earlier, when I get pressured, I move. I duck and I move. I don't stay around stuff like that. So one day we had a little disagreement about something simple. It got blown out of proportion. I said what I had to say. She said what she had to say, and I said, I'm done. I'm out. You keep your bleep house. You keep it. I'm good. I'm out. And that was when there was a storm coming up, a hurricane that was supposed to come through Crawfordville, and I was working at a dealership in Crawfordville, and we had to move all the cars, and I took pictures of all the stuff in the office, because this was supposed to be a direct hit straight through this area. So I just remember that happening. I went to work down there, because they gave me a couple of days a week, which is what all they had in their budget for me to do. I was doing my marketing, but their budget was, it's a smaller lot, so they didn't have the budget of the big lots, but I was driving from Tallahassee to Crawfordville every day. Well, whatever, the 3 days that I was working down there. So I started sharing my story, and people were like, wow, boy, you one strong joker to deal with that. And so I left. We got into it that night. I said, I'm out. I'm done with it. I'm not going to keep arguing. I got too much other stuff I'm dealing with, family, finances, faith. I can't do it no more. So I told her I was done. And I remember I proceeded to take my clothes out the closet and put them on the bed so I could put them in the car. We got into it again. She threw my stuff on the floor. Very upset, went to go get stuff out the master bedroom, and then there was a little pushing and shoving from her, and I said, "Oh, I ain't going to jail. I'm not going to jail. I ain't touching her." And that was one of the things in the beginning of our relationship. I remember she said she had guys that did things to her, abused her, and so I remember I said in the beginning, "I'll never put my hands on you. I'll walk away before I even touch you," because I got 6 sisters, and I wouldn't want no man in an argument or any situation to do that to my sisters. So remember that, fellas. Whatever you may or may not do to a woman, your woman, a woman, remember it can always be a possibility it can happen to your sister, your mom. So that was just something that I wasn't with that. So we little shoving from her. She was mad, and I told her. She asked me, "You done with me?" I said, "You'll see, cause I'm that guy." When it come down to pressure situation, pressure bust pipes, I'm not gonna talk about it anymore. I'm gonna do what I have to do. That happened before I got my place of 8 years too, with a friend of mine. Pressure and ultimatums and what you got to do. You're gonna do this and you're gonna do that. I react, and I was out of that situation. I moved out of that roommate situation, found my house then, and same now. But all in all, prayer brought me through this. Here's where people didn't know what I went through after that. So I asked my buddy in Jacksonville, him and his family, if I could come through just as an evacuation thing. But I had put the rest of my stuff in storage. A lot of stuff was still in my car when I left her house. And went to Jacksonville, had a great time. Shout out to my peoples in Jacksonville. Thank you for what you did for me that particular weekend. Y'all held me out. Y'all let me come through. My ex went down to her family down in South Florida, so this was real. This storm was supposed to come in, but then it shifted, right? It didn't actually do a direct hit. Thank God for that. But I remember going over to Jacksonville, knowing that I didn't have nowhere to live when I got back home to Tallahassee. I have friends here, guy friends, homeboys, but I'm not the person to inconvenience anybody. And I'm sure they would have opened up their door for me, but God said, "How much do you believe in me?" And you always have to remember that when you're going through. How much do you really believe? You can go to church every day. You can go to Bible study every day. But the faith walk is a daily walk. How much do you really believe in me? How much do you really believe in me? Is what he wants to know. And I tell you, prayer closets, whatever. So anyway, my buddy, we got over there. I used to live in Orlando before I moved to Tallahassee. So my buddy was like, "Hey, come ride with me. It's just me and you. My wife got to work, and the boy's going to be at home with the grandma or whatever. Me and you, we going to go to Orlando this weekend. We're going to hang out in Orlando." And it was just a good time. It was a good time. It made me forget about what I was going through, just for that little piece of time in history. Him and his brother have an Airbnb property down there, and we went through to check on some things and move some things around. I took some pictures for their website, doing what I love to do. I forgot all about what I was dealing with. Then we came back on a Sunday to Tallahassee, and I had a reservation for a extended stay hotel up here. A lot of people don't know this, but I'm gonna share this with you. It's part of the story. That was scheduled for Monday. Well, got back to Jacksonville. He had some things to do with his wife, so I just was like, I had told him about what happened. He was like, "Wow." So now he knew, and all that. So anyway, I remember driving back on I-10 from Jacksonville, and I'm like, I really don't have nowhere to go. And mind you, most of the hotels, I'm calling hotels while I'm driving, most of them are booked out because all the storm repair people from the people that were anticipating the storm coming through our area had rented out all the hotels. So I remember, I'm like, "Lord, what do I do?" I'm up and down I-10, Monroe exit, Tennessee, Capitol Circle exit, Mahan, looking for a hotel, nothing. So finally I got off exit 199, which is North Monroe 27, and I remember just driving down, and I started just stopping at place instead of calling. And I stopped at this hotel near the Tallahassee Mall. Not a nice looking hotel, but I figured it would do until my reservation started at the extended stay. Okay. I got there. I got over there. They were like, "Yeah, we got some rooms." So the guy gave me room 204. No. The second room that they gave me was 204. The first one was 106. 106, I got in there and I was like, man, it's wet smelling in here, like mildewy. So I went to the store and bought some bleach. I sprayed it down with bleach. There was a leak somewhere, obviously. Sprayed it down. I said, well, I'm going to go to Cracker Barrel, get something to eat. I'll come back. Got back, went to lay down. It's probably about 8 o'clock that night. Distraught, sad, dealing with my former relationship in my head, losing everything. My dad, my homeboys first, my dad second, the house, now my girlfriend at the time. I lost all of that. You will lose everything on this journey. Faith and patience in God are your only hope. It's all you need, really, right? So I lost everything, folks, is what I'm trying to tell you. I lost everything. So the guy, I remember going down to the office and I told him, I said, man, this room is wet smelling, mildew, and I don't feel good. I couldn't sleep. I had gotten a headache. He was like, how long were you here for? I was like, since 3:30. And you just come in? I said, look, sir, I sprayed the room with bleach. I left and got something to eat. I came back and I was hoping that it would be cleaned up by the time I got back. So anyway, he put me in room 204. 204 was fine. I had scheduled to go down to Crawfordville to do work. So I went down to Crawfordville, did my thing, pulled all the cars back out, no damage, no flooding, good to go. Boom, 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 took pictures, boom, 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 social media, boom, 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 my job, I love it. Oh man, I love cars. So when I go to work, it's never really work. I love what I do. So anyway, so I'm just telling you about how you'll lose it all when you're on this journey. But God will replace and replenish if you have faith and patience. So, okay, so checked out that hotel, car full of clothes, whatever. Stopped when I left Crawfordville. I stopped by my storage, put some more stuff in the storage that I had in the car when I went to Jacksonville. Boom, boom, boom. Go to work, had a good time. Boom, boom, boom. So, go to the extended stay hotel. Yes, folks, for 2 months, 2.5, almost 3 months, I was in a hotel. A lot of people didn't know that. The people closest to me knew. I didn't share it with everybody because I was somewhat embarrassed about it. But Mom would always tell me, don't be embarrassed what God provided for you, even if it's not, what you may or may want or need, right? And even with my ex, back in the day, I would do certain things, block a person on social media. When I know that the faith walk was coming into true fruition, I didn't cut her off. I forgave her as Christ continually forgave me. And we've talked, we've hung out a couple times after all this, because I can't, if we're gonna walk this walk, God is not of hate, of slander and belittlement and drama. I know that sounds crazy, y'all, but God is really working on me as a whole now, as a person. Not just JRide, the actual me. He's working on me. And so we were still talking up until I'll say that. But life has gone on. She's dating somebody new, I guess, and all that right there. And I'm not with drama. But I did the best I could with that. I did the best I could. And once again, not everybody's always going to see your vision. But I'll tell you about the hotel experience. So I moved over to the extended stay. I had a suite that was amazing. Had a stove, had a refrigerator, and what I used to say every day is, Lord, you're preparing me for my next house. I don't know how I'm going to get it financially just yet, but you're preparing me for my next house. That's how I felt. I felt like that was my home. Even though in my mind, I've always, since I left since my old house back in November of 2023, my mind frame, how it kept me going, I was always homeless. I had a place to stay, but I didn't no longer have my home. So that was motivation for me. Find motivation during your trials to keep you going. I, in my mind, was homeless. I didn't have a home anymore. I had a house. I had somewhere to stay, her house and the hotel, but I didn't have a home. So my mind frame was always homeless. So that motivated me more to get out here and grind harder. Okay. So I was paying $450 a week. Now let me tell you how God works here. Okay. My income from the one lot in Crawfordville was $300 a week is what he paid me. $1,200 a month. Listen to this now. I'm trying to share it, and I shared it with them. I shared it with people that worked at the office, the other office building. I'm not ashamed of my situation. It might come off. My ex said sometime soon that it might come off that I'm bragging sometime to people, but she said, I know you. And sometimes it may come off as bragging. This might be coming off as bragging in this video. But I'm going to brag on what God does, regardless of what man and woman thinks. I'm going to brag on God, y'all. And you better brag on God because he got you. No matter what you lost. I lost everything. Do you hear me? I lost everything. I was a cool dude, but you wouldn't know. Unless you were really in my circle and I told you, you wouldn't know that I lost everything. But it's going to get better here in a second. In your life and in mine. The story gets better. So every week I had to figure out another way to get $150 just to pay for the weekly. Because all I was bringing in consistently at this very moment was $300 a week. Okay, so jobs started coming, odds and ends stuff. Shout out to my brother-in-law and my sister sending me money randomly because they were like, we want to tithe and we want to use our tithes to help people that need help. So my God just kept money just pew 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 pew. But what I was bringing in wasn't even enough to pay for the hotel or the gas to drive to Crawfordville, almost 45 minutes from the hotel. I didn't know how I did it, and I had food money, and I had everything that I needed. I just kept praying, going to church. New pastor came into our church, older fella that I really grew close with. He said, "Man, I lost it all at 38." And I was staying in a hotel. And now he's remarried and he's a pastor. And shout out to Pastor Preston Williams, man. You saved me, bro. You saved me. You don't understand. You saved me. Just your encouragement. Taking the time. We spoke for an hour and a half one day on the phone. As busy as he is. After our pastor at my church wind up leaving, we didn't have a pastor for a little while. Okay? So Preston Williams, Dr. Preston Williams, had just retired from his church in South Florida. Got a call. Him and his wife moved to Jacksonville. Got a call from the church where I attend, and they were like, "Hey, we need you to come in as an interim pastor." So when I went to church one day, I see a new, nobody never really said anything about what happened with the past pastor, but man, we grew. I came in there, he showed me love like God, like I was hugging my father again, man. God will do this. He will give you a tribe, man. Listen, he'll give you a tribe, bro. Man, you saved my life, bro. Hold on. Okay, so this is his book. This is Preston Williams' book. There he is on the back. Look at this. Look at this. Cool dude gave me his book. The book is titled God's Unreasonable Reasoning. Y'all gotta check this book out. What God is up to when things in life don't make sense. He gave this to me. Because after I told him my story, how I lost everything living in a hotel, and he had the same thing happen to him, God will give you a tribe. Shout out to Preston Williams. He got a little bit of health issues. We're going to pray for him. Heavenly Father, I just want to say a special prayer for Dr. Preston Williams, as he is dealing with a personal health issue. Lord, I pray over him and his family. You brought him into my life randomly, and he has helped me so much. He encouraged me in so many ways. Lord, I just want to pray over him and thank you for the circle of people you put in my life. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. God's unreasonable reasoning. What God is up to when things in life don't make sense. Y'all check that book out. All right? Look it up. Great book. Been reading it. So God prepares us with materials that we don't even know about and where they're going to come from. Just a note. Write that down. Okay? So after all of that, all is said and done, this gentleman saved my life as far as my faith. He speaks to me personally. I text him personally. Him and his wife show me love whenever we're in the building. And it's just a great situation how my life changed, right? So I stayed in the hotel. I met another gentleman who was a former pastor at the hotel, and he encouraged me. He helped me move into my new place. Well, with my couch, I mean. So anyway, God will put you with I've lost a lot, but now I got new friends. Okay? So, okay, hold on. This the kicker right here. So I moved into the hotel, working down in Crawfordville, making the money that I was making there. Tried to get more money, but the funding was tight, whatever. No problem. Smaller lot, understand. No hard feelings there. Shout out to that lot. Y'all know who you are. Shout out to the owners. Shout out to everybody. I come off cocky when I make moves or whatever, but God is amazing. He gives you the confidence that the world doesn't understand. Do you understand that? Okay. All right. So here's where it gets good. I'm living in a hotel. Nobody knows. My ex didn't know. Nobody knew. I just told people would ask me from her circle, where, what's, I said, yeah, I got a new house. I didn't tell them I was in a hotel. A lot of people asked. I didn't tell them, I didn't wind up telling everybody. I didn't tell her until like not too long ago where I was. Nobody knew. Nobody really knows where I am now. All right. So a couple of months ago, going backwards, a couple of months back, well, I did a video at a bigger dealership here in Tallahassee of the owner's personal vehicle, and did pictures, and I don't know if that put something in his head or whatever, but I would email him, text him once a week or once a month, nothing. I wouldn't, I might not hear back because I know he's busy. That being an owner of a dealership is extremely, extremely busy. So I may or may not hear from him all the time, right? So one day, getting ready to go to church on a Sunday, he reaches out to me and was like, blah, 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 blah. I like what you do, boom, boom, boom. Can you come meet with me tomorrow? Which was a Monday. It was a holiday, but the dealership down in Crawford was going to be open. So at first I was hesitant writing him back. I was like, let me call the owner of this dealership to see if I can come in. I got a meeting. I just going to tell him I had a meeting and go, and I was going to come back to work. So I wrote the owner, and I'm sitting here waiting for a reply. He said, the owner down in Crawford was like, well, with this, it's a holiday. This come in the day after. I said, okay, cool. All God. No problem. This is all God now. Boom. Fast forward. I go the next day. I let him know what I'm doing, my accessibility. I show him a couple of my projects. He already been knowing. He asked me a price, if I had a team, if I could handle this many cars a month, and I'm sitting up here like, God, you showing out. You showing out. And so I told him a price, and he was like, handshake, boom, not a problem. When can you start? So I started the next week. God replaced everything that I lost, and he will do the same for you. Right now, as I sit here, I make just about the most that I've made in my adult life. I kept telling my ex, be patient with me. Have faith. Be patient with me. Have faith. Everything, I knew it was just a matter of time that this would turn around in my favor because I gave it all to Christ. I lost everything that no longer fitted with my new path, and it'll happen for you. Okay? I have been good since. I have been good ever since. It goes in even further. I was able to let go of the other dealerships that I worked with. I'm exclusive now. I'm good. I love it. Income every week. Boom, boom, boom. God is great. High five the screen, y'all, if God's been great to you. High five the screen if God's been great. High five. Stick with God. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Whatever you lost, He will replace. Trust me. He replaced. Okay? So I'm still staying in the hotel. I told him, my contact that's a salesman there told me, he said, man, tell the owner about whatever you got going on. He loves helping. He loves giving back. So I told him my whole story, the same story I'm telling you, that I don't have a place to stay. I live in a hotel. He said, we're going to get you a place. Don't worry. We good. You good. Just come on in. Do what you do. I said, okay. Started working there. Boom, boom, boom. Putting in the work. Boom, boom, boom. I'm working every day now as opposed to 3 days a week, or when somebody calls me, or if they have some work for me, I'm there every day now. I work with the marketing team at one of our big dealerships in our area. Social media, I send my stuff to the salesmen for their promotion so they can promote on their end. I send my stuff to the marketing director if she wants to use my stuff. I start another page for the dealership so that the more eyes, I believe my vision, the more eyes that we can put on inventory in our lot, the more engagement we can have, the more people see things. Everybody's on their phone. That's why I started my business. Everybody's on their phone all the time. Let's put as much content in front of them, even if it's from different sources. Even from my brand, I post on my brands. I post on the pages that I started for the dealership. I post everywhere. Boom, boom, boom. I share, I tag with all the salesmen, all the sales managers. Boom, boom, boom. We just putting content out there. It's rocking, it's rolling. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. One night, about 3 a.m, I would pray. I pray a lot of times in the early morning hour, and I'll be like, hey, God, one more thing I need from you, sir. I'm tired of paying for this hotel. $450 a week, $1,700 a month. So I prayed. I said, Lord, as you can probably see over my shoulder there, I love golf. I grew up playing golf, high school on in Orlando, blah, blah. High school, Fort Myers High School down south. Golf has always had a special place in my heart. So I was specific on this prayer. I said, Lord, I want a golf course community. I want to, when we were in high school, junior, senior year, we moved out on a golf course, and I worked there, and it was just part of that dream that I had back then. And my parents supported that. So in honor of my family, I said, man, I want to live on a golf course again. Fast forward a couple of days, I was asleep. I got started looking on Zillow and things of that nature. A lot of people didn't think I'll be able to get another place on my own. But God shows up and shows out, y'all. Okay? So what had happened was, got a notification for 2 places in the same neighborhood where I live now. And I think I checked out this one first. And I was like, I had that feeling. I said, this is it. It's nice. A lot of parking, not too far. I can walk to the golf course from here. The town center for the community is like right across this parking lot right here. I can walk up there, get food, whatever. There's a church up there. There's one of the famous breakfast spots in this area is right up there. So God is so amazing. Talked with the people. They said, the owners, they said, we just need to confirm. I already had said it. This is it. They said they just need to confirm my income. I said, well, I'll get you with the owner who is my direct, contact at the dealership. So it was that night. So I text the owner I said, hey, the people that own the home, they wanted to just talk with you and confirm income and all that, longevity and all that. So he was like, okay, he wrote me back. This is how God works in mysterious ways. He said, I'm at a Christmas party with my wife. This was right before Christmas and my birthday. So in a couple of days, I'll be at my new house where I am right now for 1 month already. All right. God is great. So what happened, he's like, I'm at a Christmas party, but I'll step off when he, have him call me. So the owner calls him, I guess. He steps off from his wife and the Christmas party. Whatever was said. Boom, I got a call back. When do you want to move in? And I was like, what? I said, okay. I said, look at God. I started crying. I can't remember where I was. I think I was in the hotel. I started crying like, Lord, you did it again. You showed up and showed out. My God. To God be the glory. So I didn't have no truck this time. My buddy from the hotel was like, you can use his truck, but he had started a new job. When God starts working with one, he starts working with more. So my buddy at the hotel got a new job. My other spiritual brother, Mike, passed his real estate exam. It starts happening, and that tribe that he put you with, everybody starts winning. So when you lose it all, you might be alone, but when you're replaced and replenished, everything around you starts changing for the good, folks. Stick with God. That's the gist of this video. I just wanted to share that with you. So anyway, I would move in after I would get off work at the dealership in my truck, in my small SUV, boom, 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 boom. I moved in here, folks. My birthday is Christmas Eve. This is God. I moved in here officially the 23rd. When I woke up Christmas Eve, I was on an air mattress on this very floor. My birthday, midnight. I woke up at 12 midnight, and I thank God for it. So here I am. Everything I lost, God replaced. Lost my friends. Got spiritual brothers that are friends. Pastors that are friends. My ex, still a good contact. And I know y'all probably like, no, we good. It's all good. No, whatever. Life be life. She good. She doing her thing. Her life is changing and dating and all good. I'm not worried about all that. God will handle everything. He already has. Lost my dad. I gained a heavenly father. My faith got stronger with God. So I lost my physical father, but God is the Father. Woo! In Jesus. Woo! Replace and replenish. Pastor Preston Williams. Replenished. Lost my income a long time ago. My consistent income, God replaced that. Lost my home in 2023, and God has replaced it. I'm here. I live on a golf course, folks. Yeah, I live on a golf course. He replaced, and this place is way better than what I had before, what I held on to before. Stick with God. He never left you. You left him. It's the real deal. That's what this video is about. Testimony of JRideReviews, car reviews, and more. Stick with God. He'll never leave you. He'll never forsake you. He'll give back everything that you lost, and even better than you had before. God is good. God is great. He'll give you everything that you need on your plate. Stick with him. Stick with God. That's just all I got to say. God bless you. God keep you. Hope this video wasn't too long. Hopefully y'all made it through the whole video, but if you're not, it is what it is. Break it up into parts and watch it. It's real. I lost it all, folks, but God brought back everything I lost in front of the same people that told me that I couldn't, I wouldn't, I shouldn't. He'll do it. Luke chapter 6, verse 22-23. Read that for reference. You're going to get talked about. You're going to get slandered. You're going to be made a fool. God will be step in and intervene for you. To the next video, gratitude is my attitude. I love y'all. Hope this story helps you.